Throughout this task, I will be comparing elite netballers to Year 12 players through heart rate data, GPS data, and video footage in order to determine disparities. As a fitness component, speed is simply the ability to move all or part of the body as quickly as possible. During a game of netball, speed is used by all players on the court in order to create space between themselves and their direct opponent. This makes it easier to receive the ball. Common netball movements involve speed, are leading to the ball, driving to the post, driving to the circle, and intercepting the ball. An example is seen in this clip, when the Jamaican wing attack leads into space to receive the ball. Speed is tested through tests such as a 5, 10, and 40-meter sprint. After investigating some elite netball data in regards to speed testing, it was found that by position, the fastest players on the court should be the wing attack and the center. This is the case as they regularly had the fastest average times for the 5-meter, 10-meter, and 40-meter sprint tests. However, the goal defense position achieved a joint fastest time for the 10-meter sprint. This may have been caused by an outlier in the data, but it acknowledges the fact that in order to play netball at an elite level, all players must be comprehensively mobile. Muscular power is the ability to generate a large amount of force quickly. The output of force results in a generation of speed. Muscular power can be tested through a variety of tests. Those relevant to netballers are push-ups, standing broad jumps, and vertical squat jumps. Muscular power is displayed during a netball game when a player is jumping to aerially compete for the ball. This is the case seeing that the player's muscles must exert a force into the ground at a fast rate that springs their body upward to receive the ball. An example of this is seen in the clip, when the Australian goalkeeper jumps to prevent the Jamaican goal shooter from taking possession. Muscular power is tested with tests such as the standing broad jump and the standing vertical jump. The data on screen depicts the results from various age groups and positions in regards to muscular power tests such as the standing broad jump, the double leg vertical squat jump, and the single leg vertical squat jump. As can be seen, the positions that consistently scored the best across all three tests are the center and the goal shooter. This may indicate that these positions require more muscular power than the other positions in order to be successful. On the other end of the spectrum, the goal attack consistently scored worse scores than most of the other players. This may show that the goal attack players are of a smaller build that requires speed rather than jumping ability. Interestingly, the goalkeeper position scored the joint highest score for the standing broad jump, yet scored poorly compared to the other positions during the other two tests. This shows that the goalkeeper may require more ability in regards to being able to jump long horizontal distances in order to intercept passes in close separation between themselves and their direct opponent. The interplay of the body's energy systems depend on the duration and intensity of the exercise being performed. In regards to exercise that requires a short and explosive movement such as weightlifting, the ATP-CP system is utilized as the body's primary energy source. As the duration of the exercise increases towards 10 to 30 seconds and requires less power, the anaerobic glycolysis system becomes more dominant. The same pattern occurs for both the aerobic glycolysis and aerobic lipolysis energy processes. As the duration of the exercise increases, the quantity for maximum power decreases. More specifically, the ATP-CP energy system is what the body utilizes when it must produce a great amount of force in a short amount of time. The reaction process that leads to the output of force begins when the creatine phosphate molecule breaks down at the commencement of exercise. This causes a chemical named adenosine triphosphate to be produced. ATP is a compound that produces energy to drive many processes in living cells. Therefore, the ATP that is produced after the breakdown of the creatine phosphate allows the cells of the muscle to contract faster, resulting in a fast, explosive movement. In a netball match, receiving a center pass is an example of when the ATP-CP system is most effective. The wing attack and goal attack players perform this movement more frequently than other players in order to get past their defender and receive the ball from their center player. This action necessitates a quick, explosive sprint that typically is completed under 10 seconds. The goal for a center pass receive is to receive the ball from the center, and then the side will be in a position to control the ball and maybe create a goal-scoring opportunity if they are able to execute this movement effectively, as seen in the clip. Anaerobic glycolysis serves as a means of energy production in cells that cannot produce adequate energy through the synthesis of ATP. It is the process of breaking down glucose or sugar for energy in the absence of oxygen. This system does take roughly 20 to 60 minutes in order to make a full recovery and deplete lactic acid. However, if oxygen is present in the system, 2 ATP can be produced for each glucose molecule that is broken down, resulting in further muscle contraction. All positions on the netball court use a particular movement technique known as continuous leading and driving to open space to catch the ball. The anaerobic glycolysis system is most prevalent during this phase of play, since the player is exerting themselves for nearly 10 seconds with the repetition and high-intensity execution of these motions. In order to observe the movement in a game situation, I would like to highlight the movement of the Australian centre in this passage of play. She continuously moves after the centre pass to the point where she is opening up space and she receives the ball once, twice, and 3 times, and then also finishes the movement by giving the goal shooter a goal-scoring opportunity. When fats and carbohydrates are burned in the presence of oxygen, the aerobic energy system is used. The amount of energy that can be released during a single attempt of intense exercise limits the anaerobic pathway's ability to regenerate ATP at high rates. The body's main energy source during aerobic exercise is oxygen. In comparison to when your heart rate is at rest, you breathe more quickly and deeply during aerobic exercise. This increases the blood's oxygen content, and blood flow to the muscles and to the lungs increases as heart rate rises. The playing zones the netball positions must stay within to avoid going offside affect whether an athlete uses more of their aerobic or anaerobic capacity. For instance, goal shooters and goalkeepers are only permitted to play within the end third of the netball court. This indicates that they play less on the ball than other positions on the court, like the goal attack or goal defense, who can move within 2/3 on the court. The netball court graphic demonstrates this. As a result, goalkeeper and goal shooter spend more time standing around than the other positions. This permits these athletes to operate at less than maximal levels in between periods of high-intensity activity, and the oxygen's ability to break down the lactic acid built up in their muscles is enabled. Players are able to perform movements with greater intensity when the ball is back in play inside their playing third as a result of these prolonged recovery times. During intense periods, the athlete would often be working at around 85% of their maximum heart rate. Their heart rate would then experience a recession during standing or walking. An example of this is seen in this clip, where the Australian goalkeeper does not leave a close proximity of the goal as she works at an intense level to maintain her body position despite the opponent's attempts to push her off balance. After the play finishes, the goal shooter and goalkeeper do not have to urgently return to their positions, causing a decrease in heart rate and hence a recession in intensity. A movement in netball that is demanding of the use of the ATP-CP system is a rebound because it is an explosive movement that requires a large amount of force to be exerted in a short amount of time. The movement is most often performed by players such as the goalkeeper, goal defense, goal attack, and the goal shooter. A team's ability to successfully perform a rebound is paramount to their success as they allow the team to control the flow of the game through their possession of the ball. Specifically, a rebound occurs when a missed shot at goal bounces off the rim and a player then proceeds to jump up and grab the ball. This is also an example of muscular power as it utilizes the player's ability to perform a vertical jump. To compare the ATP-CP systems of elite players compared to Year 12s, the amount of defensive rebounds performed in the first 10 minutes of a game were counted and are displayed in the data tables seen on screen. After observing the data seen in the tables, it can be said that 3 times as many defensive rebounds occurred across the same period of time in the Year 12 game compared to the elite game. This is the case as 6 defensive rebounds occurred between both teams in the Year 12 game compared to just 2 from the elite game. After acknowledging this finding, it can be said that the increased amount of defensive rebounds from the Year 12 game can be attributed to the lack of shooting accuracy of the Year 12s compared to the elite players. This is the case seeing that if a goal is scored, then it nullifies the chance of a defensive rebound occurring. Therefore, the Year 12 players may have had to use their ATP-PC system more than the elite players due to their increased amount of rebound opportunities that result from inaccurate shooting for a goal. Despite this, the execution of jumping movement to perform a rebound may be much better performed by the elite players compared to the Year 12s. As seen in the Year 12 rebound clip, the shooter misses the goal and the defender gains possession of the ball after the ball falls to them. The elite rebound clip differs from this as the defender jumps to reach the ball at the highest point, exerting their maximum amount of force into the ground. Therefore, it is easy to say that the elite players utilize their ATP-CP system when performing much more technically correct and athletic movements compared to the Year 12 players. Another level of depth can be added to the investigation of how elite netballers use their ATP-PC systems compared to how Year 12s use their ATP-PC systems by comparing the sprint times of a Year 12 center player to the average sprint times of an elite center player. As can be seen in the table, the Year 12 center has a faster sprint time over 10 meters and over 5 meters compared to the elite center player. This may show that the elite player utilizes their ATP-PC system to perform more technically correct movements than the Year 12 students, thus making speed and power not as prominent as technique and timing. Continuous leading into space in order to provide space for teammates or to receive the ball is a movement that utilizes the anaerobic glycolysis system. The movement is most often performed by players who are not constrained to a small part of the court, such as the goal attack, center, wing defense, and goal defense. Continuous leading is a pattern that is adopted by most elite teams, as it can result in free-flowing passing play that creates many goal-scoring opportunities. The elite example of continuous leading can be seen when the New Zealand wing attack initially presents at the ball carrier and then continues to be mobile after disposing of the ball to the point where she receives the ball 3 times in the same passage as her team makes an effort to present a goal-scoring opportunity. The Year 12 example of continuous leading is almost non-existent, as the ball is not transitioned at a fast rate and most of the players simply led for the ball once, creating congestion in the spot after their lead had finished. Therefore, the continuous leading of the elite players is more efficient than the Year 12s because they are able to move the ball faster due to their combination of athleticism and spatial awareness. Another level of depth can be added to the investigation of how elite netballers use their anaerobic glycolysis systems compared to how Year 12s use their anaerobic glycolysis systems by comparing the heart rate data of a Year 12 center player to the heart rate data of an elite center player. As can be seen in figure 4.4, elite centers indicated by the green bar spend approximately 8 to 10% of their time in zones 1 and 3, and they spend approximately 85 to 88% of their time in zone 2. To clarify, the higher the zone number, the higher the heart rate. The heart rate data for the Year 12 center does not correlate with the heart rate data for the elite center. This is the case as the heart rate data of the Year 12 spends the majority of the exercise time in the more intense category and spends only 1/5 of the exercise time in zone 2, which is meant to be the most prominent according to the elite data. When the heart rate is in zone 2 as seen, individual anaerobic threshold occurs, meaning that the lactate clearance can no longer keep up with the accumulation of lactic acid. When the heart rate is in zone 4 or higher, the exercise of the individual is almost entirely reliant on the aerobic system. The Year 12's utilization of this energy system may indicate that they have a lower amount of cardiovascular endurance compared to the elite center, seeing that when cardiovascular endurance is low, it does not take a large amount of work to rapidly increase the heart rate. If this is not the case, then the Year 12 may have genuinely been performing at an intensity that is above average for elite netball centers. With this in mind, the Year 12's heart rate data may be inaccurate, as the periods on the heart rate graph show that the heart rate appears to drop to below 0 and then rise rapidly, which was most likely caused by connection errors with the heart rate monitor. Therefore, the heart rate monitor may have produced unrealistic results. The aerobic system is most prominent in netball during periods of walking or standing, which are most often performed for the goalkeeper and the goal shooter. This is the case as they are confined to only 1/3 of the entire court and they do not have to rush back to their positions following a goal like the other positions do. Also, if one team is dominant in the game, then the ball will spend a great amount of time in that team's attacking half. This causes two players at the other end of the court, the goalkeeper and the goal shooter, to simply stand and wait for the ball to come to their end of the third. This waiting period is ideal for players that have previously undergone a large workload during the game to recover and physically prepare themselves for their next effort. This occurrence is seen in the elite example because from the time when the ball rolls out, both the New Zealand goal shooter and the Australian goalkeeper stand or slowly walk as they wait for the ball to enter their third of the court. The same occurrence is seen in the Year 12 clip as the yellow goal shooter stands and the black goalkeeper walks as they wait for the ball to re-enter their proximity. After watching both clips, it is evident that the further statistical analysis is required to expose differences between the Year 12s and the elite players in regards to the utilization of the aerobic system. The data on screen represents a GPS data of both an elite goal shooter and a Year 12 goal shooter. Each bar seen on the graph represents a 1-minute interval. The colors of the graph indicate the movement intensity of the individual according to the GPS, which may show walking, blue showing jogging, green showing moderate running, and yellow showing sprinting. The blue and grey periods can be associated with rest periods seen in table 2.10, meaning that the athlete should have been having a shot at goal, walking, slowly jogging, guarding, defending, passing, or catching whilst in this period. The green and yellow periods are associated with work periods, indicating sprinting, jumping, etc. After observing the data, it was found that the elite goal shooter spent approximately half of their time in the grey zone and approximately half of the time in the blue zone, with very little time spent in the green and yellow zones, and that the Year 12 spent the majority of their time in the grey zone, but reached some frequency in the blue zone, and similarly to the elite goal shooter, had very little to no time spent in the green or yellow zones. In order to find greater disparity between the two athletes, heart rate data must also be investigated. The elite goal shooter heart rate data shows that the goal shooter spends roughly 63% of their time in Zone 2, with roughly 30% being spent in Zone 3, and very little time being spent in Zones 1 and 4. A different pattern is reflected on the heart rate data of a Year 12 goal shooter, as they spent the majority of their time in Zone 4 as seen in the data, with very little spent time in Zones 2 and 1. This may reflect that some of the goal shooters in the Year 12 games may have been suspect to a one-sided game, meaning that they had very little rest period due to the fact that their team was constantly presenting goal-scoring opportunities for them. It was found that the Year 12 players were not as proficient compared to the elite players in regards to performing specific netball movements. Through comparing footage of elite netballers to the Year 12s, it was found that the Year 12s were very rarely able to apply tactical movements to their game and hence showed limited understanding of how their movements impact the team's performance. After investigating the heart rate data of both elite players and the Year 12s, it was found that the elite players utilized the interplay of the three energy systems to their advantage in a way that was specific to their position on the court. They used their muscular power to perform vertical jumps in order to compete for the ball, and they utilized their speed to create space for their team and or to receive the ball. Thank you for watching.